So it's finally that time again. We are going to be updating the raid tier list. So if you haven't seen this already, there is a link down in the description and probably in the comments as well about the previous tier list video that I did, which just includes all 6 raids prior to Root of Nightmares. But of course, this video is going to be adding the Root of Nightmares encounters into the tier list as well. So we're going to see how they rank. Obviously, this is probably the easiest raid that Bungie's released so far. So that will be dictating a lot of how this is going to go. I'm just going to quickly put these in order so we can just do them by order as well. So starting off with the very first one, we have the first encounter, which is just learning the main mechanic. I'm going to be a bit lenient on this one, to be honest, because whilst it is an easy encounter, the thing is, it's designed for you to learn how the mechanic works, and it does it pretty well in my eyes. Like, I remember on day one, with us going in completely blind to what the mechanic was, we actually worked it out in pretty much an hour, so it was quite effective in how you can learn it. So for that, I'll actually put this into C tier, which is, I'm going to be honest, foreshadowing what's going to come, because, first encounter for what it is and how effective it is at learning mechanics, it does its job well, but it's nothing special, and the ads aren't really that hard to deal with either. Tormentors are a bit of a pushover in this encounter as well, so it's just, if everyone's on their game and alert, then this encounter is quite easy to do. Not to mention, you can solo the encounter, so that obviously brings it down quite a bit as well. Next, we have the second encounter, which is pretty much the first encounter, but with 2 of them, and you've got to dive between the walls. Now, this one is a bit more difficult, and most people will maybe wipe a few times doing this, especially if you're going in for the first time. However, I will say that because it's a breeze to do, and you can do it with very minimal fire team members, and the fact of it is pretty much a copy and paste of the first encounter, albeit with a second one in play. And not to mention, the lifts are buggy as hell, because they can fire you 100 miles per hour or no miles per hour. It is just so dodgy to actually use them. So much so that people actually defer this and just do well skating or sword skating, sometimes even using Strand just to bypass the gap in the middle, because the lifts that you use are so temperamental that you just can't judge what it's going to do. So due to the spaghetti coding and the fact of it's not a difficult encounter, I'm putting that one into D tier. It's nothing really that special. Third encounter, and this one is the boss room with the planets, and I'm not going to lie, I love the design of this room. It is very nice to actually see where the Witness was originally when we first saw him at the end of the Witch Queen. It's a nice homage to that, so I quite like the design. The mechanic itself isn't exactly complicated, so that's another plus in my eyes. It does take a bit of understanding to get used to it. But the bit where it starts losing points is that this is practically a copy and paste of the Caretaker from Vow of the Disciple. And what I mean by that is literally the damage phase is you stand on one of 3 plates and just do damage from the plate. You could have done so much more with this encounter. Like, I would have been perfectly happy with you just do the planet things and then you do the ones in the middle and it unlocks DPS for like 20 seconds. That would have been fine. So for that reason, I'm actually going to put it slightly below Caretaker because it's pretty much the same encounter. I don't like copy and paste of raids. Finally, we have Nezarac himself, and on contest mode, he was fairly difficult to handle because of how much damage he dealt, but now that it's not in contest mode, this guy is literally a pushover. Like, out of every single boss that I've ever gone against in raids for Destiny, no matter which one I've done, I have never had an easier time dealing with a boss than this. And the reason I'm saying that is because I recently ran this again with my day 1 team, and we one-phased him with not much difficulty at all, even completed the encounter triumph as well. That being said, though, I do like the idea of how he gets blasted with a light and a dark beam to actually trigger his DPS phase. That's fairly cool. And the fact that he runs around as well is also another plus, but that kind of gets cancelled out when you use the plates, so it's a bit iffy on that. But again, it loses points because it is the same mechanic as the first and second encounter, which is literally just light up these 6 nodes on either side, boom, you're in damage phase. And that's not even mentioning the white mechanic that's in this, where you can literally avoid it by just triggering the same kind of thing you did during some of the jumping puzzles, which for me, honestly, is daft. They should never have added that in the first place. Literally just give the Guardians a little bit more time and never make that a thing, because that way you actually encourage Guardians to move quick to get all the orbs lit, which is kind of the point in my eyes. So for me, the mechanic that allows you to avoid the white mechanic just seems like babying in a way, so I'm not a fan of it. Which is why Nezarac is going into D tier, because as a boss, he's not difficult to beat. The mechanics aren't exactly anything that will put pressure on you, and he's got an abysmal amount of health for a boss, which would be okay if they were stepping away from doing boss damage to actually doing mechanic-based damage, but that's completely not the case in this, so it just falls flat completely. I think even Tanix is a harder difficulty than Nezarac. But that's going to be where I'm going to put every encounter for Root of Nightmares. Obviously, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, and if you want to try this tier list out for yourself, then by all means there is a link in the description as well for you to give it a go. That is everything for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all in the next one.